Hello again, everyone. Today, despite how I'm dressed because it's unusually warm, we're going to talk about some spiritual concepts of winter and things we can do to help us grow mentally, emotionally, physically, even and spiritually, of course, throughout the winter. Now, one thing I want to start out with is when it comes to winter, everyone thinks about like the holiday season, you know, and but we just got through that. We've just had our New Year's Eve here. But we often get so wrapped up in the holidays that we forget that these are celebrations that mark the beginning of winter. You know, we get all excited about, Christmas, Hanukkah, solstice, whatever it is you celebrate. Whenever we have all these holidays coming up, and then we have the New Year, and we forget that winter literally just started. Right? Especially those of us living in capitalist-focused societies. We go to the stores, and fall comes, autumn, and we have Halloween, and then Thanksgiving, and then boom, we're going into winter where we have Yule, Hanukkah, Christmas, etc. And now that's over. So jump straight into Valentine's Day, St. Patrick, Easter. Pretty much as soon as the Christmas stuff is gone, here comes the Valentine's, etc. The thing is, again, all of these holidays mark the beginning of seasons. So even though we're done with the presents and the balls dropping, and the fireworks, we've done all that, but we still have basically 3 months of winter. So, what do we use winter for on a spiritual level? Especially since we've still got so much time left of winter. Um, for that's what we're going to be talking about. And for me, and for a lot of cultures and beliefs, winter is essentially two things. It is a time of death or rest, and a time of inner reflection and inner working. So, um, forgive me if you see me looking at my notes. I didn't want to lose my main talk points here. So, anyway, if you look at it, even wintertime, even scientifically speaking, no relation to religion or spirit at all, just science and the natural world. Winter is always rest and death. Things are dying. You look around, everything's dead. Um, the trees, the flowers, everything, they die. And they come back in the spring, and we know this. And you can look around and see in the spring, some of them didn't come back. That's just the nature of things. Well, it's how the universe works. Even stars die eventually. And these things do die when spring comes and everything comes back to life, and some of them don't come back. And part of that is because, they don't have the nutrients or the energy or the fire or heat, etc. I mean, energy, heat is energy. But anyway, wrong kind of nerd, sorry. The point being, in the winter, everything dies. Most things, almost everything comes back, but then there are always some that don't come back, and that is because they are lacking what they need nutrient wise, energy wise, etc. So, from a personal perspective, and spiritual, emotional, etc., to me, that is something we can look at and learn from. So, if you look at, say, the Norse creation story. That's one thing I think about a lot in the winter, because we know that in creation, according to the mythology, it was the ice melting that brought out life, brought out Ymir. Well, then if you take that further, as far as the cycles go, which again, most winter holidays originally honored cycles of nature. In the Norse mythology, after the creation of the first life, where we had Ymir emerging from the ice, and yes, Ori. But while Ymir was sleeping, is when his children were born. So that, to me, is also another example of that continuing cycle. Everything was frozen. He sprang to life. He's asleep. He's dormant. And then life came from that. So that is just another cycle. And so for us as people, which are essentially animals with cognitive ability and sentience, we can use that idea for mental, emotional, and or spiritual needs. That to me is what winter is for. It is the time when, again, everything's dying and we ourselves rest, or should. The animals, we have animals that hibernate. Even the ones that don't necessarily hibernate, or whatever, they still slow down. They conserve their energy, and for the continuance, they know they're going to spring to life more in the springtime. Part of why we have that name. So, for suggestions, how can we do this? How can we use winter as people to help with our own spiritual, mental, physical selves? There's a few suggestions I have, and they all kind of go together. So, in one of those, you look at winter is the time of death. It is the time of the dead. When we had our spooky season, Halloween, Samhain videos earlier, I mentioned the fact that, that's not the only time that they are out. They are out all year round, but especially during the winter months, they will continue on through spring, because that is the season of death. This is death. That is what it is. It is cold. It is, no signs of life. So for me, one thing I would like to do, I'm going to be doing, I haven't done it in a while, I'm going to be honest. And one thing is honoring ancestors. Before anyone says anything, yes, many of us have ancestors we don't feel we can work with. We have differences in beliefs, differences in ways of life. We have, traumatic experiences from our biological families, whatever the case. So if you are not at a point where you can honor your ancestors, honor those who are your beloved dead, those who you did love, who you did respect, who you've learned from, and also even those ancestors you don't necessarily want to honor, reflect on them. And I say that because when we are reflecting on our ancestors, those who came before us, even if it is a case like that where we don't want to deal with them or be like them, there's still something we can learn from that. So if we are, rather than honoring, think of it as reflecting on. If you are looking back at your ancestors, where you came from, and you're thinking about the things they did that you didn't necessarily like, That is also something you can learn from, because what we're doing when we're reflecting on our ancestors is we are also considering the fact that this is where we came from. And when it comes to changing and growing as people, as individuals, as a society, as a whole, we look at those things, good and bad, and we just kind of focus on that. It's just like what should be the case when you're studying history. So if you have these problematic ancestors, good ones, bad ones, doesn't matter, whatever your case is, you can look at those and reflect on the dead who have gone before and think, these are things I admire, these are things I'm going to keep. These are things that I don't like. These are things I don't agree with. These are things that were just terrible, whatever the case. Those are things I'm not going to do. And you can use that to help you move forward and become a better you and who you need to be, and think of it as a way of, people talking about breaking family curses. They can be viewed as something like that. Whatever your case, you can't fully break away from a bad, again, people call it family curses. That's not what it is. It's just shit that happened, okay? Um, in most cases. But you cannot fully break away from those terrible things until you acknowledge them for what they are, admit they exist, find out why they bother you, and go from there. So, again, by reflecting on your ancestors, especially during these winter months when it's quieter, it's easier to focus and think, you can learn those things about, okay, that was not good. I'm not continuing that in this line. I'm not continuing that in my life. Some of us do not have contact or do not have desire to have contact with our living relatives. But there's still someone, somewhere, some soul you can use as an ancestor. Use that reflection to determine who you want to be. It's okay if you don't like what your ancestors did. You use that to learn to not be that, to be the one who says, yes, use it as part of your strength. Say, my family did that. I'm not. I'm moving forward. So focusing on that will help. And then in doing so, you will also make it easier to find those ancestors and spirits in general, even if they're not related by blood, that you can honor. So that's one step, or one concept that for me goes along with winter and the spiritual concepts of winter. Excuse me. Another one is resting physically and mentally. It is really hard for most of us. Again, we live in a society where everyone is focused on being productive. We have our to-do list, we have our New Year's resolutions, we have work, we have bills, we have schools, we have all these things, just constantly go, 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 go. So we need to find a balance in that. Winter is a great time for that, because it's like animals are out there hibernating right now and slowing down, and we can do that. We convince ourselves that we have to keep move constantly, and we do not. Yes, we want to pay our bills. We want to work. We want to do what we need for survival. But just like those animals, you notice they're slowing down, but they're still going and getting their food, and they're still going and surviving. They're slowing down. They're not running around and frisky like they were a few months ago. We as people, who again are basically, we are animals too. We may be more sentient, but we're still animals. We need to do that. We need the rest. So yes, go to your job, pay your bills. If you're a student, do your homework because that will eventually go into your future career and income for survival. But when you get there, what is the point of being completely productive and completely, reaching your goals and your dreams and having all this money if you are so fucking tired that you can't do anything when you're not at work? If you're ever not at work, some people don't even give themselves that. It is constantly go, 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 always working on something. So, for the winter months, if we do like those animals and we slow down, go do your job, pay your bills, yes, but then go home and go home. Stay home. Turn off your phone when you're not at work. It is literally, unless you have a contract that says you have to answer that phone 24/7, you're on call all the time, unless that is a contracted deal you have with your job, it is literally illegal to fire you for not answering when you're off. Stop doing it. Turn off your work phone. Turn off your anything related to productivity unless it is a hobby that you just enjoy and it makes you feel better. Slow down when it comes to running errands, it comes to things like that. And make sure you're doing the things you need to do, but at the same time resting. Guess what? It's cold. Use that as your reason. That's why the animals are doing it. It's cold. We don't want to hang outside any longer than we have to. So stop running out. Stop running out of your houses, running around, doing all these plethora of things because someone might look at you bad. Another interesting fact, physically speaking, people always talk about your winter weight, adding winter weight. Okay, winter weight is added just like it is with the other animals by doing our, needing to rest, and we're eating more. Yes, it's from holidays and etc. But it's also a natural thing of us trying to from all the way back. It's just something that never died out in evolution. We're constantly in the winter trying to keep our energy up, keep ourselves going and thriving. And so for humans, because we don't run around as active as we used to, we do get a little bigger, but at the same time, that's natural and it's okay. You can work it off. We talk about it every freaking year. So who cares about that? In some places in the world, and especially in older times, if you were bigger, that was awesome. That made people want to be around you because that meant you had the money for food that they didn't have. It was a sign of wealth, sign of prosperity. And I mean, look at your in Norse people. How many of them were like they weren't built muscular, man. There's plenty of records of them just being big, stocky people. Yeah, they ate good. So use your time to rest. Don't worry about your weight. Don't worry about your stuff. I mean, yeah, you don't want to get unhealthy. I get that. I'm not the prettiest thing in the world. I'm not dying from my weight either. I don't care. Um, but I know what it's like to be worn down physically because of the go, go, go lifestyle. Because of the constantly got to do this, got to take care of this problem, got to go work, got to go take care of the kids, got to go. Fuck it. You know, when you're not an older person yet and your body's already hurting like an older person, that's a sign you're working too hard. If you notice, previous generations didn't have that problem as much as we do. Because even though, yeah, they'll talk about, oh, they worked harder and they made it through. No. Yeah, they did different kinds of work, but they weren't literally scared to death if they missed one day of work that they were going to die or not have what they needed. Times have changed, money's changed, okay? Um, Point being, you've got to take care of you. You've got to get your rest. So take this time to slow down. And if you have to go to work and do your job, that is understandable. That is how we live. That is how we survive, by paying our bills, unfortunately. But when you are not on your schedule, you are not required to work, don't make yourself work. Because at the end of the day, whatever path you believe in or none at all, when your body finally wears out, there is going to be absolutely no one looking at you going, how much did you work? Did you work enough in your life? That's not going to happen. So let yourself rest, especially in the winter when it's cold and you have an excuse. So the next part, while we're sitting at home, while we're reflecting, while we're resting, do inner reflection and shadow work. That is one thing that many, many paths agree on. That in the winter, we, again, like nature, we take stock of what we have. We look at what is inside us, what is growing. We discard the things we don't need, and we use the things we do so that we can spring forward. Part of how we do this, there's a lot of different ways people will do it. So when it comes to inner working, shadow work, those are not entirely interchangeable. They are similar concepts. They are similar reasoning for doing it. But inner work is basically anything that, sorry, I've got a sprained ankle and I'm fixing my bandage. But anyway, inner working is anything that is working inside yourself. Shadow work goes deeper. A lot of people will put these things on Facebook and social media talking about doing their shadow work, and they're talking about, when I get angry, just pause for 2 seconds and go, okay, does this really hurt me? That's not shadow work. That's just inner calm, that can be seen as inner reflection, but that's not shadow work. Shadow work goes deep. It's called shadow because it's the stuff you aren't openly doing in front of everyone. It's the deep shit hidden in the shadows that no one knows about. So yeah, take it deeper. One of the closest things I can think of, without having to go through some of the extra steps and meditations and things that some paths require, is honestly found in your 12-step programs. And one of those steps that we go through where you're writing down all your resentments, all your fears, anything you feel guilty about, anything you've ever done wrong, and insight. Do that on a spiritual level. And what we do with those, in these programs is we'll take those and we look at it and go, okay, why am I afraid of this? What is making me afraid of it? Where did this fear come from? What is it affecting in my life? And then we can work on changing it, getting rid of it. Or for me personally, because my path is not a clear black and white, is that you can take what is considered technically a malfunction, or something that is, what is the word? defects of character, as that one particular book would call it. Um, Sometimes it's not so much that it's a defect in the sense that it's bad. Sometimes it's just that the way we take it, the way we use it, the way we do it needs tweaked. Like fear, for example. People talk about, don't give in to your fear like it's a terrible thing. But fear is needed for survival. If we were not afraid of dying of starvation, we would never eat. If we were not afraid of freezing to death, we would never build shelters. If you're not afraid of getting arrested, you won't pay your, insurance bills or fix your car. It's this, some things are seen as bad, but really they are needed. It's just that we take them to a level that is unhealthy. So for us, the main thing is you want to look at these characteristics of yours, and this is where a lot of the inner working does become shadow work complete. Because you got to look at those things from the perspective of, how is it affecting me? How is it affecting the people around me? How bad is it? Is it something that can be useful if I do it right? Or is it something that needs to be gone entirely? Again, most of that will come down to your personal beliefs, between you and your God or whatever it is you believe in. But the point being, some things are not bad. They're just being used incorrectly or done overboard. I don't know why I felt like that needed to be focused on real quick, but that's part of the inner working that we can do here. And the reason it applies to winter time is because, just like, again, when the plants and animals in the spring, they all come back out. We talked about the ones that don't. So during the winter, if we use these inner workings and shadow work and reflections, we use that to take stock of what we have, what we need, what we don't need, so that we can move forward. And that is the next thing I was going to touch on, was the putting away of old for new. That is the death for the purpose of rebirth aspect of winter, which most everybody knows. So when you're doing these reflections, and once you find these things that you no longer need in your life, and it doesn't matter if it is something like a serious traumatic episode and your response to similar issues, or if it's something as simple as throwing out your clothes you don't wear anymore. Whatever the case may be, these are parts of who you are, and the reflection lets you know where you want to go. So then the next step is that putting away, the dying, so that you can come back out in the spring anew. Yes, I'm working on it. Not gonna lie, I don't want y'all to think that I'm saying y'all do this and I'm not, because most of what I talk about is things that I myself am needing in my life, doing in my life, or planning in my life. Like, because I know I cannot stand people who want to pretend everything's wonderful when it's not, especially online. So I'm not gonna tell you that, oh, I'm doing these things perfectly. No, I'm not. I'm telling you, this is kind of like also my way of keeping myself accountable by sharing these things with you. So anyway, I don't know. Someone watching needed to hear that too, so they can get off my butt. I don't know who they are, but I know it's there. Uh, that goes back to the reading ability, doesn't it? So once we found uh, all these things, all the stuff we dealt with when our inner working and the shadow work and the fears and the issues and problems and things we don't need, things we do need. was another part of the reflection I forgot to mention. Heighten and focus on the good part of you. That helps you through too. And then we take all these things that we have learned through all this process through the winter, and we evaluate it, and we decide these things need put away. These things need not fully put away, but just kind of tweaked. And then these things need to be kept, and these things need to be enhanced. And we give ourselves this list of what we need to do so that we can put away all the old and the dying parts, or the parts that need to be let go and need to let die, and then bring out the new. Again, this is what winter is excellent for, because what else are we doing? We're not running around going to the beach and in the hot sun. Oh, we're staying inside where it's warm because it's cold outside. So we have like no excuse really not at least stop and reflect and work on these things, even if it's just a couple of minutes a day. Again, pot calling kettle black here, but one thing I like to tell people when they talk about no time for quiet, no time for reflection, meditation, etc. Unless you're like a mom who never gets to leave the house and has multiple children screaming at you even when you're in the bathroom. Um, bathroom's a quiet place usually. There's not a lot of people in there talking to you. I don't care if while you were sitting there doing your business, you're just taking a moment to breathe and be quiet. You can do that. You can do it the last few minutes before you fall asleep at night and reflect. I wouldn't suggest doing it because a lot of us get in our head right before bed. We don't want to do that. But you find your time, even if it's just a moment. 5 minutes even will help because it's better than nothing. Yeah, you want to get to a point where you can do more than that, but no, start small, especially if it's something you're not used to. I'll take my coffee in the morning on the porch and I'll just sit and either listen to music that kind of helps me focus for what I want to do the day, or just listen to the birds while I drink my coffee. It's just that, and right before bed, I just have another cup and rest before I go to bed. So I would suggest that for you guys too. Again, for just those of you who don't know how to work in your quiet time. But again, the point of going back is in the winter, we use this time as a way to spring forward. Again, like I said, in all the mythology around the world, there's always some death that comes into some great rebirth, something magnificent. And it happens after the winter, after the death. And a lot of us now in modern times just don't give ourselves that chance. We don't take the time to rest. We don't take the time to reflect and find out what we need to get rid of. I mean, you can get rid of your clothes in your closet, and that's helpful. But if you're still feeling things inside that are a problem for you, those are the things that are going to really affect how far you go in life or whether or not you reach goals, etc. So the reflection is important. And actually part of why I wanted to do this today, well, I've been wanting to do it for a while, but I got a reminder today. It was again on social media, and someone posted a thing about making sure anything you do in life, you reflect on it and ask yourself, is this honestly helping support the life I'm trying to create? That broke me because I, like a lot of other people, I have found myself, especially again in this society where money rules the world, we get into these positions where we're doing the survival part. paying our bills. We're working and making money and this, that, and the other, but it never stops. And some of us have these goals and these dreams and these desires, and we want to go further. We want to do more. And we can't because the prices and the expense of living and surviving in a lot of places is so big that no matter how much we work, we're not going to make it to that point of go fulfill your dreams, go live your life, live your dreams to that extent. We tell, love and light guru people that'll be like, oh, if you don't reach the goals you want in life, it's because you're not trying hard enough. And they'll say, it's your life, live it how you want, quit the job and go do the dream job. I said, okay, well, are you gonna pay my bills while I'm learning the new skill? Are you gonna pay for the training and tuition I need for the school to learn the new goals? Are you going to give a roof over my head when I lose my housing because I quit my job to start a new business that hasn't kicked off yet? We can't keep telling people, go live your life and do what you want with your life to that extent. But at the same time, we can use this reflection time to ask ourselves if the things we're doing for survival can even potentially lead to those goals we have. And that's the difference. And that's where the reflection comes in. And that's what hit me so hard when I saw it. Sorry, it's been a minute. Because I realized that I have dreams and things in this life that I would love to create. But at the same time, I have a job. I have things I'm working for, goals I would like to reach. And then I realized that sometimes I get myself so worked up on the current position and paying the bills that I'm so tired afterwards that I can't do the other stuff I was doing to get to the goal I had in mind. When you get to a point, whether it's me or you, or your friends, whatever, then what I tell people is you have to focus on, is this supporting that? Yes, we need the money to keep ourselves going toward the thing, but when we get to the point where the money maker is stopping us from being able to do the other, that's when we need to reflect. Because we can have the money to pay the bills and all that, but then you're so tired you can't do your schoolwork for that degree you're trying to get for that future career. Or you're so tired and worn out that you can't go and exercise and everything for that weight loss goal you've got. You're so busy all the time. Some people are so busy all the time you can't even go out. You want a happy life and marriage in the future, and you can't even go out and meet people because you never know when you're going to have to go to work. We have families. People have families that they rarely even see because they're so busy working. And so these are the things we can reflect on during the winter as well. Unfortunately, winter is also when we need to pay heating bills more. So, you might want to just find ways around that. But the point being, all these things that I'm talking about, even though they seem somewhat unrelated, what it boils down to is reflecting on what it is we need and want in life. But what do we need to do to get to those goals? So just as we talk about springtime can be seen as the new start, the new year we just had today, actually. Just as we talk about those things of what we need to do in setting those goals, we really can't reach those goals if we don't take the time, like now in the winter, to focus on what we need, what we want, what we don't want, what will help, what will hinder, and take that reflection so that we can spring to life in the spring. When it's time to come forth, will we have what we need? Or will we be a star that's lost all its energy? Or will we implode like some of them do? So that's the thing. And that's what, for me, winter is about. So, again, in order, the reason I put those topics, these suggestions in order, honoring or reflecting on the dead and those who came before us, we can learn what we do and do not want to be, what we want to do better than they did, what we want to let go completely that they did. And then we take that and then we do the resting. We do the resting because we need the energy to do the work that is needed, that is coming. And the inner reflection and the shadow work. We've got our rest. While we're resting, we've got this inner reflection going. We know and we can pick out, just like I said with the ancestors, in our own personal selves, we can pick out, what do we need to keep? What do we need to get rid of? What am I trying to do here? So I can align the keeps and throwaways with that goal, that person I'm trying to become. And then we take all that and we let it die. The things we no longer need, the things we're getting rid of, and we let it die so that we know when it is time to spring forward, we can, because we've taken these steps of this. It's almost like planning for a project. You're not going to shoot a rocket into space if no one even knows how to build one. Where do you get the parts? Who's going to fly it? Same thing with us. And so winter is a planning period. It is the time we reflect and we do and we get rid of so that we can move forward when the time comes. And I'm not going to lie and say it won't hurt. Death usually does in some way. Well, that's when we cling to each other. That's when we cling to our friends. That's when we cling to our gods. So, yes, the fiery ones too. So that's what we've got for tonight. That is what winter is used for me. That is my goal now, is actually, if I were the kind to make New Year's resolutions, I would say that doing this like I used to more frequently, following this, is my New Year's resolution. We'll spend the rest of the winter reflecting on these things so that I can, in the future, do better for my goals, which also involves being here with you guys. So I know I kind of wandered around there, kind of a little juggling there with the various topics and how they all blend together, but that is my main thing. It's just using this time of year because it's not over yet. We just started. So use it for your reflection and your rest and decide what you're going to let die. And in the meantime, I hope you all get a good rest tonight since most of us stayed up really, really late yesterday. So have a good night. Be safe, and I will see you soon. Ta-ta.